Hi, my name is Megan Levangie, and I'm going to be looking at this week's question of what really is Western civilization. Western civilization is largely the culture of the United States and Europe. While many countries benefit from the advances and political structure of the Western world, many have begun to speak out against the notion of Western civilization. This idea comes from groups believing that the ideology behind Western civilization stems from a tradition of racism, sexism, slavery, colonialism, and imperialism. Robert Royal points out in his article, Who Put the West in Western Civilization?, that a civilization is not inherited through generations or tradition, but it is rather spread and advanced through the diligence of humanity. To advance this idea, we see from the article of Bradley Berzer, where he mentions that most schools are embarrassed by the West and dismiss any notion that it has a place in modern society. I like Berzer's point that every civilization has some form of ethics. This is what helps us to understand how to treat our neighbors, but it is that of philosophy that reminds a person that their neighbor is a human. His ultimate point is that Western civilization is not a tradition that brings forward racism and sexism, but is actually what establishes the concept that all persons are humans. I also really like Hannon's book, and in his book, he has his definition of the term Anglosphere. He seems to drive the point that it is the Anglo world in more modern times that has advanced the ideals and culture behind Western civilization. Again, Europe and the United States seems to be the modern definition of the West, which in more modern history contain the nations that have sought to preserve democracy and individual liberty. Hannon asks the question as to why it is that the Anglo nations come together more than other nations. And the short answer to this appears to be that they share a common language. While they do share an ancestry that does not automatically entail that they will band together. The fact that nations such as the United States, Ireland, Britain, Australia, and Canada can communicate clearly leads them to be more likely to draw near to each other and attempt to preserve Western freedoms. This is seen through the example of Winston Churchill meeting with President Roosevelt in Canada in 1941. Churchill himself stated that it was through the same language and same ideals that they were able to come together in the same values and stand united for the same cause. While Hannon's example suggests that the means of advancing civilization is through the same ideas and values as they're being passed down, the end thought is the same. Ultimately, that Europe and the United States are the Western countries that continue to strive to advance society through the preservation of democracy and liberty rather than through traditions. So, on the contrary, these nations are moving away from tradition in attempts to continue to build society into a greater civilization. Thank you.